Hello and welcome everyone to the Complexity Weekend November 2021 cohort. I'm Daniel. I'm one of your 6 co-organizers and really excited to be speaking on behalf of the other co-organizers to welcome you to our cohort and to provide you a little bit of information about the pre-weekend phase. I'm in our gather space so I can walk around. I'm sharing my screen right now, and I'll just share some slides that'll give you some background information on Complexity Weekend and on the cohort, what you can expect in the coming weeks. The video is going to have an organizer's welcome, a welcome to the Complexity Weekend community of practice, and then some information about our November 2021 cohort, specifically the pre-weekend phase, which is going to start from whenever you get onboarded until the weekend, and then the weekend, November 12th through 14th, 2021. So a big welcome from your organizers from Complexity Weekend, November 2021. That's Blue, myself, Evelyn, JP, Jessica, and Sean. The organizers are there to help you with anything. We're there to help you however you need assistance to participate. You can contact us in the Keybase team in the team complexweekend.nov2021. That's our cohort-specific team. You can message Complexity Team, the Keybase username, or any of us with our usernames given here, or you can always email complexityweekend@gmail.com. And in other videos, we're going to have some more introductions from the organizers, but that's just to say that we're there to help you, so just get in touch if we can help in any way. On to the welcome to Complexity Weekend. Well, initial conditions and history are very important for complex system. So it's important that we describe a little bit about our initial conditions and history. The first Complexity Weekend was held in person in San Francisco, California, United States, and that was in May 2019. As we were planning for a 2020 Complexity Weekend and planned to have it in person, we had some changes. So that's when we first went online, and we had our first online Complexity Weekend in May 2020. Since then, we've had awesome growth. We've had more and more participation each time, more teams, more facilitators, better understanding of the pre-weekend, during the weekend, and after the weekend phases. And here we are on the timeline, heading into our 4th online weekend, our 5th Complexity Weekend overall. That's the November 2021 cohort. So if you're listening to it, you're in the cohort. For complex systems, it's also important to have multiple representations. So here is a representation of our community through time. The y-axis on this graph is kind of the community energy in green. And there's a big peak in the energy around each weekend as new participants get onboarded and those who know each other get excited to connect again. And then we also have these smaller peaks in energy every month for our smaller monthly heartbeat events. So that's the green line. Bigger peaks for the weekend, smaller peaks for the heartbeat. And in the background, there is the yellow line, you and your team. Because one way that we can all learn complexity by doing is on teams. And so we hope that you'll find a team or form a connection, and we're there to scaffold that team, however, so that it can develop. And we'll keep our own rhythm as Complexity Weekend, but your team will take on rhythms and missions of its own. And also there on the bottom left, all Complexity Weekend events are organized by participants. So if you want to get involved now or in the future with organizing or with facilitating, just let us know and we can find an upcoming heartbeat or weekend where that will work. Yet another representation of our community is from a role-based perspective. So the biggest circle, the biggest role in our community is the participants, the big green circle. That includes everyone. There are some roles within the scope of participants, for example, event organizers and event facilitators. So those are not speakers, they're not special kinds of people, they're event-specific roles that we step up into. And we also have associates and supporters at the periphery of our community who provide financial and non-financial support so that we can organize this community. There's 2 big on-ramps or entry points for participants. That's the monthly heartbeats, as well as the biannual weekend cohorts, like the November 2021 cohort. And then there are teams that are forming outside of Complexity Weekend, on the interfaces of Complexity Weekend, and fully inside of Complexity Weekend as well. So you'll get to know this role-based structure more by participating. If we can just make one brief slide about the diversity of our community and a little bit of the structure of our cohort, here is registration data so far from the November 2021 cohort. So the pre-weekend has not even begun. We're not at the full cohort size, but just to give you some idea about a few of the really important axes of diversity and how those bear upon how we plan the weekend. So on the left side is a map of the countries that have registered so far. And the pie chart is small, and I can't resize it right now, but there's about 25% of participants from the United States, and then there's a really even distribution of countries all over the world. You can see we have almost every time zone, many countries, and many more will be added because this is just the first people who have registered. So one thing about our community is that we're a global community of practice, and that has a strong influence on how we plan. For example, communicating time zones and making sure that events and teams are accessible to everybody. Another set of important dimensions of diversity in our community are people's familiarity with learning complexity and also applying complexity. And so we always talk about learning while doing and learning and applying together. Here's a scatter chart showing the participant response on the RSVP question, what is your familiarity with learning and applying? And there's a correlation. So people who rate themselves as having more familiarity learning also rate themselves as having more familiarity in applying. But there's a total scatter, and it's really important to note that about 30 or 40% of participants are very much complexity beginners down there in maybe the 0 to 3 familiarity in learning while applying. So if you're an expert in complexity, that's awesome. We respect your experience. If you're a beginner to complexity, that's awesome. We also welcome your courage. What brings us all together to be in a complexity-oriented community of practice? We'll have a lot of time in the pre-weekend and the weekend events to unpack this, so I'll just read these now. What brings us all together is our shared purpose and interest in complexity science. We have a desire to have impact on co-creative teams and to improve our community of practice through feedback, participation, and peer mentorship. And we share core values and the desire to develop community. Our collective purpose is summarized and also modifiable. So these are not final states. These are just in progress. Our collective purpose is that we learn complexity science by doing. We serve through deep time, and we include to innovate. Diversity is key. Again, we'll have time to explore these in the coming weeks, but I'll just read out the core values. So the first core value is that Complexity Weekend is itself a complex system. Education is active. We learn complexity science by doing. Teamwork makes the dream work. Participation means accessibility and inclusion for all. Respect is key, and step up and be brave. So these are just awesome core values that our community has co-evolved through time, and the editable values document is where these can be modified if you have some suggestions or additions. We'll also be talking in the coming weeks about how to participate in the general and in the specific. But at the outset, what we can say about participation guidelines are that we encourage you to adopt a complexity thinking mindset, whatever that means for you. We encourage the understanding that communication is key, and that means one-on-one communication, relationships, as well as teams, one to multiple. We encourage you to embrace technology, but also know its limits and use good audio and visual etiquette. So again, within the scope of your setup and your situation, mute if there's noise in your background or if you're not talking. Make sure to give an extra second for somebody who might be on the other side of the world, just in case there's lag, just to make sure that we can have a welcoming experience and hear from everybody. We welcome full participation and also appreciate the diverse abilities and contributions of the participants in our community. And we encourage reaching out on the edges, reaching out to the edges, and staying involved in the community. So just going to read through those, and we'll talk about them more in the coming weeks. The last piece of this introduction video is just going to be some specifics on the November 2021 cohort, which we're all really excited for. There are 2 phases to the cohort. There's the pre-weekend phase, which starts from whenever you get onboarded until the weekend, and then there's the weekend itself. The really important link, which you can check out here or you can bookmark, is the November 2021 Participant Single Source of Truth, or SSOT document. So here is what it looks like. And the SSOT has 4 tabs. The first tab is the key links and information about Complexity Weekend. So here's where you'll find links to your onboarding letter. You'll find links to our Gather Space, the pre-weekend playlist of all the videos. You'll find links to the types of events that we're going to have and the slide decks for them. You'll find resources and trainings for our tools. And you'll also find some information on Complexity Weekend, where else you can find us online. The second tab is the Facilitator Information tab. Here you can get to know the Keybase username, name, and interests of all of our awesome facilitators. We have about 30 or more so far. And then when it's posted, we'll include the intro video URL for each of these facilitators, so you can watch their intro video and get excited to know them and get to talk to them on Keybase. The third tab in this spreadsheet is the pre-weekend events tab. So far we've posted just the upcoming events for October, and we'll add the November events as well as other October events soon. There are 3 kinds of events. People, which are unstructured time in the one-on-one format to meet other participants in the cohort. Tools, which is office hours, where whether you're a beginner or an expert in the tools, we'll be talking about what we're using for tools for the cohort and how to make it work for you. And then the ideas event, which is a welcoming introduction for what is complexity and what do we mean when we talk about complexity. It'll be very interactive and discussion driven because we recognize all the different backgrounds we're coming from and all the different views we have on complexity. We've done what we can to space out these sessions of different kinds at different time zones to remain accessible. But if there's a time that doesn't work for you, just let us know. So this is pretty much the one link you'll want to bookmark as a participant, is this Participant Single Source of Truth, the SSOT. The 3 kinds of pre-weekend events I just mentioned: people, tools, and ideas. And all of these are optional pre-weekend events, and hopefully you'll have fun by coming to the same type of session again and again. One of our community tools that's really important is Keybase. This is how we do all asynchronous text and team chat. So the Keybase team we're going to be using is complexweekend.nov21, Nov 2021. And there's a bunch of different channels. If you click the gear next to the team name and then browse all channels, you can see which channels you're in and also which channels you can join. So a few kinds of channels in the Keybase and what they're for. First is general. That's going to be a general channel for announcements and conversation. In I Need a Team, that's going to be about finding a team for yourself or finding new members for your team that already exists. That's active in the pre-weekend, but especially during the weekend. And that's one way that we stay accessible for participants of different time zones. We use asynchronous tools to find teammates. You can post in introductions and say hello, leave an emoji, and see what other people have written, get to know your cohort. Questions are for any questions you have about anything. Requests are for any kind of request that you might have, especially the request to make a new Explore channel. So these Explore channels are by topic, like Explore Blockchain, Explore Complexity. And the only one that you're going to be pre-added to is Explore Complexity. The other ones are all opt-in, so you'll have to use that gear. And the idea is it's an opt-in discussion of participants who are excited about that topic, coming from many different backgrounds. So it's an awesome place to collide and share resources, form teams, etc. In tech support, just let us know if there's anything related to Keybase or Gather or any other tech that we can help resolve. And then we'll have, for the first time in this cohort, a wiki. So the wiki is going to be for discussing the wiki. That's Keybase, and just like Complexity, the best way to learn Keybase is learn by doing. So just check out Keybase and get involved in the conversations there. The other tool we're going to be using for synchronous audio and visual chat is Gather. And there's a specific video in the pre-weekend playlist with a Gather walkthrough. So we're not going to walk through it here, but the best way to get familiar with Gather is just to jump in and meet other people, talk to them in Gather. So we hope to see you in the cohort-specific Gather space and get to know you there. So if we can just summarize the pre-weekend, the first thing to do or to know about the pre-weekend is that we're in our cohort-specific Keybase team, complexweekend.nove 2021. So we're going to be there and, again, say hi and get the discussion going in some of these Explore channels. The second thing to know is you can check the participant SSOT, the single source of truth document, and the calendar to join upcoming events during the pre-weekend phase. The third thing you can do or know is that you can watch the facilitator introduction videos. The playlist is in the participant SSOT. And 4, what else? It's our pre-weekend. So anything that you want to do or contribute or feel like you bring to the cohort or the community, just let us know and we'll try to accommodate that. And this video, I'm just going to show you the current status of the weekend program. It just says to be added. We're still working on the details with the facilitators, but they're really committed and they're working with us to generate an exciting weekend program. So check back at the participant SSOT to the weekend program slide, and we'll keep on adding information there as it becomes relevant. So in the future videos, we'll be covering some facilitator introductions. We'll be giving updates on the pre-weekend, and we'll be providing more information about the weekend and team formation itself. If you have anything else you want to hear about in these organizer introduction videos, just let us know. Otherwise, thanks for being a proactive participant, for watching these videos, and we'll see you around. Thanks. Bye.